It's hard to be shocked by anything coming out of the Trump White House anymore, but today many people are. President Trump signing an executive order to end the forced separation of families crossing the U.S. border illegally. What is behind this about-face? Let us debate and discuss. The panel tonight. Jackie Kucinich is a CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief for the Daily Beast. Andre Bauer is a CNN political commentator and former Republican lieutenant governor of South Carolina. Mary Catherine Ham is a CNN political commentator, senior writer for The Federalist. And Mike Morey is a former communications director for Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer. All right, Jackie, what changed?
I think public opinion, and including some of the president's own supporters, were turning against him on this.
That's happened before, though.
It has happened before, but that's usually when there's a reversal. His own family was saying, reportedly, Melania and Ivanka were saying that this isn't okay. On the Hill, there was no one who was defending this policy. So I think at the end of the day, he knew there was going to be a change. Obviously, it wasn't true that the president couldn't change this. It was always up to him the whole time. Whether he's admitting fault, I don't know that matters as much as what he changes. And we don't know what that is quite yet.
That's very true. Major caveat. We don't know. Let's assume it's kind of, generally speaking, what we're thinking is. Mary Catherine raises her eyebrows at me. Good job assuming, Kate. Andre, he created the crisis, then he fixes it. Does he deserve credit?
I'm a little torn on this. I don't think he created the crisis. The crisis was there way before him.
It's exacerbated it.
It's gotten clearly more in the public eye now. We've got a much bigger problem as a country. Republicans and Democrats, we'd all love to say, need to come together. Ain't going to happen. But the Republicans are going to have to take a leadership role on this and do something. They control the House and Senate, and they're going to have to be out there. There are a few Democrats, when you look at some of these seats that are up for grabs in the Senate especially, they're going to have a little bit of a difficult time with this as a bigger and bigger issue, but it's a much bigger issue. The optics were not great for Republicans. I think you saw the heat here where they had to swiftly start taking steps in the other direction where they didn't want to, and it was hard to explain. Even though I think the Republicans were right on this issue, we've got to do something now. I think it was a difficult thing to explain in sound bites, and I think that's why you're seeing the result you're getting.
I would argue, Andre, isn't it difficult to explain even? It could have been in an encyclopedia. This was not.
Because they're not really in cages. Look, out of the 12,000 kids, 10,000 came without parents. And so 10,000 kids coming without parents, that should be way more alarming than the 2,000 that were separated. And they're only separated for less. No question. But what about the 10,000 kids? Nobody's worried about that and why they're coming over here. And look, Guatemala has a border between Mexico. How are they getting all the way there? Why aren't they coming through the ports of entry? So there's a lot of things here.
Okay, that's all fair and good. But the point is, when they get to the United States and when they're here, the U.S. government was putting children, babies, in cages. That's a fact. That's a fact.
They were the exact
They look like what I put my dog in. They look like what I put my dog in.
They were the same things Obama had.
They were cages. They were cages.
You can see that's the problem.
No, the problem is
talking about, did they change what Obama had? Did they change what Obama had?
This is the problem is
this.
Trump changed what Obama
We didn't change the walls. We didn't change the walls. We didn't change what we put them in.
We fundamentally changed what the last president did. What we did was we went from civil proceedings for misdemeanor illegal crossings to criminal proceedings for everyone, which then wrapped up babies and children and put them in cages.
They weren't cages, and that is an outright lie and disingenuous.
If we take the cages,
chain link fence.
If we take the chain link or cage out of it, again,
do you have children? Have you put your child in a chain link fence before?
So if I don't have children, that means I can't.
It means that you cannot. If a human being doesn't put a child behind a 6-foot fence.
So how do you separate them?
No, but this is the source of the problem. It's horrific. The images are horrific. The Trump administration, regardless of policy in the right place or not, did not anticipate how to handle this in a correct way. Full stop. But to where we are at the moment, which is, I'm not sure where, so help me, Mary Catherine, do words matter? Because for days, he was pounding it that he could not fix it, even though he was wrong. He could not fix it. Democrats had to fix it.
I mean, he changes what he says constantly all the time, which is part of the problem they're having on the Hill, trying to figure out, okay, will he back something? And he within the space of a meeting, he'll change his mind about that. But look, I do think there is a part of this where executive decisions and executive orders got us here. Legislative solutions are more durable. That conversation is not getting you anywhere close to a legislative solution, which is actually what would help help deal with the problem, because they did flood a system that was already overwhelmed. And even if the facilities are not changed, they are more overwhelmed, and there are different people in them, and there are very young children in them.
Which is so it's a different unaccompanied minors that were coming.
It's a qualitative difference, but what disturbs me about this whole conversation is that when you get emotional legislating, like the Democrats' bill that was like, hey, you can't detain any children ever and put them aside from their crime-committing parents anywhere in the U.S., was essentially what the bill ended up saying, because they goofed up, because they are legislating on the fly here and not getting things right. That is concerning, and I don't think this conversation that we're having as a nation actually gets us closer.
They're also slowing entry into the ports of entry. So while they're saying that, you know, you need to go through the
legal path to try.
Yeah, the legal path to actually do this the right way. If you're trying to seek asylum, they're making it harder to seek asylum. They're making it hard to get to the port of entry. There's a line, there's a bridge, and people are camping out on the bridge. They cleared the bridge. The two senators, Jeff Merkley and Chris Van Hollen, were talking about this yesterday to reporters, describing the scene there. So they're making it harder for people to do it the right way. I'm not saying that that's why they should break the law, but if you're talking about the Health and Human Services, Christian Nielsen, saying that they can still do this, it's actually very, very difficult right now.
Well, and that makes me wonder if they didn't have if the infrastructure or staffing or whatever the term is wasn't in place to let people come through in the legal pathway. If they're trying to come up and retrofit big box stores because they've got this influx of children that they're separating from their parents, they didn't anticipate correctly the fallout from a policy decision. Right. Are they anticipating, anyone think that they're anticipating correctly the fallout from this policy decision, which we think it would be, which is stick with zero tolerance, but keep the families together? You're still going to have a huge influx of now families to be detained together.
I think it's all on the fly. I don't think they are dealing with that, and that's why I think some of the solutions that could come out of Congress, if Congress did things like solutions which would add more judges and which would add money to facilities, would actually be more helpful. But I think perhaps the strategy may be that Trump is pushing the attention back to the courts, because this is going to now go through the courts to decide whether it violates this Flores decision from the past, and
so
that's where we're going to be. I don't know if that's all it is, but that's what it's functionally going to do.
But is this just another chapter in a blame game? I mean, I'm wondering, do you think the president said overnight, the images are just too bad, we've now got to do an executive action? I mean, I want to know what qualitatively changed from last night to this morning.
My guess is that he was just simply finally convinced by his Republican colleagues the dangers of this politically for the midterms, particularly for congressional swing districts and the suburbs. The idea that you're actually separating children from their parents when you are trying to run as sort of family values conservatives, and you're already running against the wind in a midterm election, my guess is that perhaps he was convinced overnight, finally, that this is very, very bad for Republicans in the House.
I will say, I agree with all of you. I rarely do. I agree with you guys a lot. I also think the passion is the right way to be, because if there is no passion on where we stand on this, I know it might slow. It kind of comes in like legislating on the fly, but there isn't passion. This all is just going to die away with the presidential executive order, I fear. Let's talk about that next.